and welcome to Lesson 3 of our Ladder PhD training program. We hope that you are feeling good about our information so far. Here we will establish some appropriate sequencing order for ladder use that is more specific to our industry's safe access needs than that which is provided for general use purposes by the ladder manufacturers. Let me reiterate that all ladders on the market today are in fact multi-use ladders, which would explain why Werner, Louisville, and Little Giant have a similar stance with respect to ladder use recommendations. And although we personally believe that this does represent a noble effort on their behalf to keep us free from injury, given the multitude of tasks that people in general will use those ladders for, there are some critical revisions required to maximize our safe use for 1, 2, and 3-story landing access. The first step in sequencing is without a doubt the most important because it represents a critical step for avoiding the leading cause of ladder injuries. This should begin with a full structure assessment to determine the very best access point. Let's not assume that the front elevation of the structure, which is no doubt the easiest to get to, is necessarily the best. Considering all of our placement options will help us to develop the best action plan to avoid the hazards like inclined surfaces, rakes, slick surfaces, wet surfaces, wood and composition decking surfaces, excessive or overmature landscaping, and electrical lines, which represents the 9th leading cause of ladder-related injuries. And while we're at it, let's also give some consideration for minimizing our damage footprint by avoiding the eave resting areas that have soft metal gutters or vinyl gutters. And as a final thought on ladder placement, it is worth noting that when the situation allows, we should give preference to a setup area of grass or unpaved ground that would not only provide excellent base security with the application of our ladder's spur plates, but also represents a softer impact surface if we should happen to fall. The next step would be to select the appropriate ladder from your vehicle and move it to your preferred access point, taking great care to avoid the 5th leading cause of ladder injury, which is related to lifting and handling practice. The third sequence step is often overlooked by many, yet necessary for avoiding both the 3rd and 6th leading cause of ladder injuries. A full bottom-to-top inspection of your ladder should be completed during the setup phase and prior to use. Good ladder inspection practice can be boiled down to a simple assessment based on function, wear, and damage. Function would refer to, are all the parts of the ladder functioning correctly? Wear would refer to, are there any notable wear marks to the ladder, and if so, are they within the tolerance of acceptable? Damage would refer to, is the ladder free from signs of significant structural trauma? Begin your inspection at the base of the ladder by examining the shoe assemblies. Make sure that they are securely fastened and exhibit a full range of function. Assess the wear viability of the rubber tread pads and make sure that they are free from surface contaminants like moisture, dirt, oil, and grease. Next, you should scan both the rails and the rungs to verify that they are clean, dry, and free from bends, cracks, or any other forms of structural damage. Keep in mind that rail splits, especially with fiberglass ladders, are difficult to spot and oftentimes only visible under the load of the climber's own body weight. Observe the function and condition of the rung locks, rope, and pulley as you extend the length of the ladder into place, and verify that all height locking mechanisms are fully engaged before climbing. Understand that the lifespan of your ladder will normally outlast the viability of its rope. Remember that ladder ropes are susceptible to various forms of use trauma and photo degradation. Make sure that you replace your rope with 6 to 7 millimeter low stretch cordage with a tensile strength of at least 5 times the weight of your fly section once it begins to show troublesome signs of deterioration. Our next step is to verify that our ladder is facing the right direction. A mistake that we are most likely to make in those rare instances where raising the fly section is not required to access our landing point. Step 5 is to position the top rung of your ladder approximately 3 feet above the roofing eave line, a process that can be achieved by placing your ladder's fourth rung as close to the top of the fascia as possible. Step 6 is to verify your ladder is at a 75-degree angle to the ground. This is a 4-foot rise to 1-foot run angle that is roughly represented by the angle created by the tips of your toes to the fingertips of your outstretched arms. Securing the base of your ladder is the 7th, yet quite possibly the most important step with respect to avoiding the number 1 leading cause of ladder injuries. Our access demands will require the ladders we use to rest on a variety of different surfaces, some of which are more ideal than others, none of which should be trusted without careful consideration for avoiding ladder kickout. This step will sometimes require additional stabilizing actions beyond that of what properly functioning shoe assemblies can provide. Step number 8 is the final step that we will complete prior to climbing onto our ladder. Here we will once again verify that our ladder's locking mechanisms are fully employed, just in case they were accidentally disengaged during steps 6 or 7. The next 4 steps will be followed as we make our way up the ladder to secure it to our access landing point. Here we will show our ladder all the respect it deserves by facing forward, keeping our body weight centered between the rails, using our hands to secure our climb to the ladder rungs, while maintaining 3 points of contact with our ladder, a process that is best represented by 2 hands and 1 foot, or 2 feet and 1 hand. Step number 13 is another one of the most commonly skipped procedures that separate the wise professional from the bumbling masses. Once we can comfortably reach our access landing area, we should complete the process of ensuring our ladder remains in place by securing it to the roofing eave. This is a process that might require the attachment of a ladder stabilizer during our 3rd synchronized step, just before you lift your ladder into place. The last step is all about getting into position to safely transition to the inclined roofing surface. Here it is important to minimize the pressure we place on the 3-foot portion of the ladder that extends above our landing area. This process will require keeping the vast majority of your weight under both feet and then transitioning that weight to the foot you will leave behind during your access step. And that's a wrap for our ladder sequencing video. We encourage everyone to continue on to lesson 4, the physics of fall protection. Here we will address some of the most common misconceptions about safe ladder practice and remedy this human tendency with compelling details on exactly how you can make every ladder interaction a safe and reasonable risk.